no longer in Discovery. I don't have a job. It's finally true. Richard Rawlings is not guilty, as many people said before. The star of Fast and Loud says he's been keeping a dark secret that explains everything, including why his marriages ended, why he sold all of his cars all of a sudden, and why Discovery really killed his show. He's finally ready to tell the truth about that $6 million 0 cents court case now that he's 55 years old. Trust us, it's a lot worse than anyone thought. His birthday is March 30, and he was born in a working-class area of Fort Worth, Texas. He loved cars a lot before he became famous on TV and a big deal in the auto industry. In one of the oldest pictures of him, he is shown as a proud little boy sat in a pedal-powered Volkswagen Beetle. It wasn't just a toy, it showed what was to come. On Saturday mornings, most kids watched cartoons, but Richard did something different. He would get up at 3 a.m. when most people in the city were still asleep and go deliver newspapers with his dad. As they drove through dark neighborhoods, they'd roll up stacks of papers and throw them on porches. Richard did the same thing again for the afternoon version after school. He would ride his bike from house to house on the weekends to get paid. It wasn't just the money that stood out during those rounds. It was the cars. He started to pay attention to all of them. He knew what year, make, and type of car was in each house. Some of his customers were shocked at how much he knew. I ride by your house twice a day, most days of the week. How wouldn't I know what's in your driveway? Was always his easy answer. His dad had 2 or 3 jobs, but he always made sure he had one thing for himself, a car or a motorbike. He got that one toy as a prize, and the lesson stuck with him. Richard learned from what he saw that you had to work for what you wanted. Richard got his first car when he was 14 years old. The Comet was green and came from 1974. He used money he had saved from years of driving around delivering newspapers to pay for it. A lot of kids were looking forward to turning 16, but Richard was already driving. He wasn't supposed to, but that didn't stop him. That Comet wasn't just a ride, it said something. In the school parking lot, he would do donuts on the tires just to show what it could do. His friends still talk about it, even though it's a gross green color. He believed it was the coolest car ever made. After that, things went quickly. That 1987 school year, he was already on his 3rd car. This time it was a Bandit Trans Am in black from 1977. He was known as the car guy at Eastern Hills High School because it looked like something from Smokey and the Bandit. It wasn't just to show off, though. He also bought, fixed, and sold cars, which is called flipping. He had already flipped 20 different cars before he graduated. He didn't guess. He made more that way than most kids do with part-time jobs. He could find deals, make them just a little better, and get people to pay more than he did. Everything that came after it was built on top of that. When Rawlings was only 22, in the early 1990s, he had to deal with something much worse. The muscle car he was driving was a 1965 Ford Mustang 2+2 Fastback, which has the kind of shape that car owners dream about. Someone stole his car while he was driving through a rough area near Oakland Boulevard in Fort Worth one night. They tried to get him out of the driver's seat. Richard fought back. During the fight, a bullet went through his shoulder and down his left arm. He made it. He could have given up on car culture for good, but it only made him more driven. That was before the tattoos, the fame, or the garage. From 1988 to 1990, Richard wore 3 different outfits. Before he turned 21, he worked as a police officer, a firefighter, and a nurse. I want you to get a good job with benefits, stay loyal, and retire with a gold watch, his dad always told him. At first, Richard paid attention. Everything changed in 1988. When he brought Miller Lite to a nearby bar. An old friend whom he thought was just another drunk asked him what he was going to do with his life. Richard talked about becoming a police officer, but said he couldn't afford to go to the school. The man looked at him and said, "Damn it, I'm the mayor of that city." Richard was accepted into the North Texas Police Academy in 17 days. He was a police officer in Alvarado and then a fireman in Capel. He was good at many things and knew how to keep calm when things went wrong. He would use those skills to handle crises in business later on. But he needed a change when he was 25. He bought a Jeep after selling everything he owned. He left for California with the goal of beginning something new. He didn't have any tattoos or piercings back then. 6 months later, he came back to Texas broke, with tattoos, pierced ears, and no Jeep. It was taken back by the bank, and he was sleeping on his sister's couch. That low point didn't break him. It made him stronger. It was time for him to start his own business, so in 1999, he opened Lincoln Press. It was a Dallas company that printed things and ran ads. He didn't know much about printing, but he did know about branding. He got a small business loan for $100,000, 0 cents to get going. In just 5 years, Lincoln Press was doing very well. When the company made its first $1 million sale in 2004, he gave the customer a Lamborghini Gallardo. That trick worked. The business kept getting bigger. He sold it in the end. He was able to follow his real dream to buy cars with the money from that sale. Things didn't really take off when Richard Rawlings opened Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas in 2002. It was a small store. It was built with money from the sale of his old business, Lincoln Press, and didn't even have running water or air conditioning. Things got off to a bad start. It was Rawlings's desire that was lacking, not his means. He still believed in what he was doing, so he and his small team hit the road and went to parades, trade shows, and car shows all over the country. They did anything to get the name Gas Monkey out there. In May 2007, he and his friend Dennis Collins set out to do the Cannonball Run, which is one of the most famous car races of all time. The old record was 32 hours and 51 minutes, which was set in 1979. That's how long it took to drive from New York City to Los Angeles from coast to coast. The record hadn't been played in almost 30 years. In May 2007, Rawlings and Collins chose to give it a try. They didn't follow the planned route for the Bull Run drive from Montreal to Key West. Instead, they went straight for the record. They drove a Ferrari 550 Maranello that had been changed and given more gas tanks so they wouldn't have to stop as often. It only took them 31 hours and 59 minutes to get from Manhattan to the Portofino Inn in Rondo Beach. They left at night. It was done. They beat the old mark of 87, which had stood for 28 years. 6 miles per hour on 111 miles of road. At first, some people didn't believe it. Many people had doubts about the route or compared it to the first runs, but the accomplishment still stuck out. It was brave, it was risky, and it was real enough for Jay Leno to give Rawlings a personal nod. That moment meant more to him than most people knew. Jay Leno is the car guy, not just a car guy. His garage is packed with a huge number of old and unusual cars. He knows a lot about cars and is highly respected in the industry. Leno didn't just praise Rawlings when he told him he had broken the Cannonball Run record. It was a strong sign of approval. Rawlings wasn't a well-known name until after Fast and Loud, but that nod from Leno gave him a lot of respect in the car world. That trust was important for Rawlings. From 2002 to 2012, it wasn't easy to get Gas Monkey off the ground. He put all of his money into the business. He worked out of a garage that didn't have running water, air conditioning, or even enough tools to get by. He had a hard time getting good workers and the right parts. Sometimes he had to fight just to keep the lights on. There were risks in every project. You had to earn every customer. At that time, Rawlings began to talk about his show plan. He wanted to bring repair of old cars to more people than just car fans. He wanted to include families, kids, and anyone who liked a good story with some horsepower. Networks didn't care, though. It seemed like the idea was too specific or too risky. While he waited for a chance, he kept pushing the brand by going on the road to more car shows, talks, and face-to-face dates. The work was slow, but it got something done. When Discovery finally said yes in 2012, the name Gas Monkey was already well known in the car world. No one knew that Fast and Loud would make a Dallas garage famous around the world when it first aired on June 6, 2012. Richard Rawlings was at the center of everything. He was just a guy running Gas Monkey Garage before the cameras came out. When the show took off, people in more than 200 countries knew his face. It was popular all over the world, not just in the USS. The show was made into 13 different languages. With that much reach, Rawlings became a big name in the entertainment business very quickly. The idea was simple but powerful. Rawlings and his team looked for old cars that no one remembered. Most of them were hurt or could hardly walk. It cost them money to bring the cars back to life and make them shine. But the tone of the show was what made it stand out. Other shows were more dramatic or aimed at specific groups of people, but Fast and Loud was more general. As Rawlings put it, it was something that kids and grandparents could both enjoy. There was no need for him to make just another car show. He wanted it to be fun and exciting, and he wanted everyone to feel welcome watching it. It worked as planned. People were hooked on the builds, the cars, and the excitement. But Rawlings really turned things around when he used his success to do more than just work on TV. He opened restaurants, clothing lines, energy drinks, tequila, vodka, and more under the Gas Monkey name. There was still a garage there, but it was now the base for something much bigger. By 2020, Rawlings had made a huge business empire. The show finished on June 8, 2020, after 16 seasons and 155 episodes, but the brand was bigger than ever. That the show did well was because of what Rawlings called his cash money formula. The whole point was to buy and sell better. He would go all over the country looking for old cars that were in bad shape. He would then use tough bargaining and quick cash to make things happen quickly. He carried around a lot of cash with him sometimes just to get a seller to agree right away. If you have $5,000, 0 cents, he once said, you can always buy a $10, 0 cents car for $5, 0 cents. That wasn't just good TV. It was his real-life plan, and it worked. A Dodge Challenger build was one of the best examples of how the system worked. He paid a little more than $40, 0 cents for it. The company spent $77, 0 cents to fix up the building and add new features and changes. The car sold for $150,000, 0 cents. That was a $73, 0 cents gain from just one flip. Plus, they had good senses, spent wisely, and knew exactly what buyers wanted, so it wasn't just luck. Another thing that made Fast and Loud unique was that Rawlings was ready to take chances. He often bought cars that most people wouldn't touch, like ones that were rusty, had damage to the frame, or looked like they had been parked for decades. Even his own team didn't always agree with the choices he made, but Rawlings saw promise where others didn't. He got a huge car for $400, 0 cents one time. It had major technical problems after the previous owner broke it. Gas Monkey Garage fixed it, though. The car made a lot of money when it was sold after being fixed up. That kind of risky bet became a part of the show's personality. These old rusty cars weren't just for show. They added drama and depth to the show. All of the restored cars had stories to tell and problems that had to be fixed. People could see how much time, money, and work went into the changes. There were builds that didn't go as planned and ones that took longer than planned. Some cars didn't make money, but that was part of the fun. People got a real look at the business side of restoring cars and saw the risk that comes with the benefit. As time went on, Fast and Loud became one of the most popular reality shows on Discovery Channel. From June 2012 to June 2020, it was on for 8 years, showing builds, flips, and crazy road trips. The show was really going strong by season 4. That season had tight schedules, problems that came up out of the blue, and fixes that had to be done at the last minute, all of which added to the stress. People who watched never knew if the team would finish the car on time or if the deal would fall through. A mix of stress and reward kept people interested, but Rawlings made a big choice in 2020. He said that he was no longer working with Discovery on the Joe Rogan Experience. The reason was about having power. He didn't want to be limited in what he could do next by obligations that held him back creatively. It was risky to leave the network, but it also gave me new opportunities. He has kept building his brand since then through YouTube, new media projects, and the continued growth of Gas Monkey Garage. Richard Rawlings was already well known in the auto industry, but in 2013 he chose to expand his brand to include things other than cars and engines. In September of that year, he opened the first Gas Monkey Bar and Grill in northern Dallas. On the spot of the old Firewater Bar and Grill, it was built. It was 19,000 square feet. It wasn't just a restaurant, it was also a bar, a music spot, and a place with style. He made sure that people with real experience ran the place, which could hold up to 100 to 200 people. Alex Mendoza, who had been in charge of the House of Blues in Las Vegas, was hired as general manager to run the business. David Hollister was hired as the kitchen manager to make changes to the food. It wasn't just quiet when the club opened. The American rock band Old 97.7 played the first live show there 2 days before it opened to the public. From the start, the place had style and life. The company was ready to go bigger by March 2014. He did the right thing when he opened a second Gas Monkey Bar and Grill, this time in Terminal D of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Gas Monkey now had a place where people going through one of the country's biggest airports could get food, listen to music, and try their brand. He even said he wanted a third site outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He wasn't just messing around, he was making something. There was more to the bar and grill than just food. It became a party spot where music, cars, and nightlife all came together. In October of that same year, Rawlings stepped things up a notch. He opened Gas Monkey Live across the street from the first bar and grill. It was huge, 38,000 square feet, and could fit 30 people. It used to be Toby Keith's I Love This Bar and Grill before Rawlings bought it. He turned it into a full-on music hall made for big shows with lots of people. On the first night, punk rock giants Social Distortion played. After that, big bands and well-known events started coming to the venue. In November 2014, one of the most talked about events took place. As part of their All Bad Things Must End tour, Motley Crue played a free show there. Dodge Rock's Gas Monkey was the name of the event, and not everyone could go. Only people who owned Dodge cars were allowed in. It wasn't just a concert. Dodge's newest cars, like the Charger SRT Hellcat and the Challenger SRT Hellcat, were also on display. All night long, speed, sound, and show came together. Gas Monkey Live was also the site of private events, VIP parties, and business meetings. For more than just music, it was easy to use because it had green rooms and lots of different sized rooms. The venue had a rough time, even with all of its success. Gas Monkey Live shut down in May 2020. The COVID-19 outbreak put too much strain on the finances to keep going. The closing was the end of a brave part of Rawlings's journey into live theater, but it didn't stop him from wanting to do great things. The first Gas Monkey Live took place in 2014. That same year, Rawlings was named the national spokesman for Dodge. All of a sudden, his face was everywhere. In ads, he was seen driving a Dodge and talking about how fast and stylish it was. He was well known from Fast and Loud, and now he was helping Dodge sell cars all over the country. When Dodge Rock's Gas Monkey played at his own venue, it was one of the best parts of their work together. On that one night, his love of cars, his music room, and a well-known brand all came together perfectly. Dodge was able to connect with car fans, and Rawlings got national attention. In the world of cars, his power kept growing. Then, in 2019, he did something else. He got into energy drinks. But instead of making his own, he licensed the Gas Monkey brand, which let him keep control of the image without having to pay for production. It was a good choice. When it first came out, Gas Monkey Energy came in two flavors, normal and light. The brand focused on speed, power, and joy, which was how Rawlings felt about everything he did. The brand added a third taste called Tropical by January 2025. Monkey fruit, passion fruit, pineapple, lemon, and honey were all in it. It also didn't have any added sugar or high fructose corn syrup. The drink went well with the bold, fast, and clean way of life that Rawlings pushed. It was possible to buy the energy drinks online and in shops. They also showed up at big car races like the Indianapolis 500 and NH races. Richard Rawlings has always lived life in the fast lane. His work took off with big engines and TV stardom, but his personal life went more smoothly. Richard got married for the first time a long time before Fast and Loud and Gas Monkey Garage made him famous. The year was 1993. He wasn't sure where he fit in the world of cars yet. Karen Kay was his first wife. Frames into his life during those early, unsure times. They got married that year, but their marriage didn't last. They were no longer married by 1994. They were married for less than a year. There wasn't any fame, fans, or attention yet. He was just a young man with a dream and a marriage that ended before it really started. People don't know much about Karen because she stayed out of the spotlight, and their short relationship never made the news. But that first breakup was the first of many. It proved how tough it was for Rawlings to handle his work and home life at the same time. Something had to give when people were pushed to build something big, and that something kept giving, especially in the years that followed. He tried again in 1999, this time with Suzanne Marie Merrill. The wedding took place in Las Vegas, just as Rawlings began to make work on Gas Monkey Garage. Even though things were getting better at work, the stress was still there in their personal lives. His company was expanding quickly, and he was going on many trips. After 10 years, they were no longer together. They split up in 2009. That would have been the end for most people. But Richard and Suzanne had a complex relationship. They got back together in 2015, 6 years after they broke up. They chose to get married again while they were in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. It seemed like a good chance, a second chance after years of having grown and changed. It didn't last, though. By March 2019, Rawlings had told the public again, this time on Twitter, that he and Suzanne were splitting up. The message was sent on March 11, 2019. It was strange and straight. He told them that news outlets like TMZ already knew about it, so he wanted to be the one to tell his fans. He said that both sides agreed on the choice. He still loved Suzanne, but they were no longer together after being together on and off for more than 20 years. It was quick to get a second divorce. Suzanne got money as a settlement and left. He gave her $300,000, 0 cents, in 2 parts. Her Mercedes SL 450 Roadster was also still with her. Even with everything, Richard was nice about the time they spent together. He said they had really shared something, even if it didn't last. The same person has been married twice and divorced twice. It showed how hard it was for him to balance his private and public life. Caterina Diasan then showed up. There was another reason why her name was in the news. Darwin Diasan is a Texas millionaire who sold his company, Affiliated Computer Services, to Xerox for $6 billion. She was married to him before. Katerina had lived in that world for years, with private jets, super ships like Apogee, and an unthinkable amount of money. Her life changed in 2019, though. Not long after he broke up with Suzanne, she started going out with Richard. Things went quickly. Richard asked her to marry him at the Beetle Resort in Mexico on August 17, 2019. He spread rose petals on the beach and wrote on social media that he had found his true love. In Key West, Florida, on June 28, 2020, they got married. The wedding was small because COVID-19 made them stop the big wedding they had planned in Greece, but the moment was still important. Katerina had gone from being married to a billionaire to being with a reality TV star. It was a big change, but she seemed to like it. In June 2018, the world of handmade cars got a surprise. Dallas's Gas Monkey Bar and Grill sued its own founder, Richard Rawlings, for slander and asked for $6 million, 0 cents. Fans and people who follow the Gas Monkey name were shocked. The claim said that Rawlings was trying to get away from his business partners by trying to avoid his contracts in a planned and dishonest way. It was 47 pages long and had a lot of information. It said that things were going badly in the relationship as early as May 2013, before the bar even opened. Tim Hinkhouse, a former worker, wrote in an email at the time that Rawlings was terrible to building workers. He even said that he was like a spoiled 13-year-old. It got so bad that Rawlings was allegedly not allowed to be on the building site anymore. That part said a lot. Things were already getting out of hand between him and the team. The problems didn't go away after the bar opened later in 2013. The case says Rawlings kept showing up without being asked, bothering staff and attempting to make decisions without their input. It made the workplace dangerous. The problem got so bad that it broke in 2015. In a serious email, Rawlings told Daniel Flighty, the senior member of the bar, that important financial records had been lost. Flighty answered right away and asked Rawlings to come look at the records in person, but Rawlings said no. In response, he said he didn't think the records existed at all. That claim, which suggests theft or fraud, would lead to bad things. Flighty wrote back to Rawlings on July 18, 2015, to tell him that he had always been welcome to check the books. The court used that text as important proof. In the end, Rawlings said sorry for his actions and said they were caused by drinking. Flighty and the rest of the team, on the other hand, were already hurt. The lawsuit said that Rawlings' acts had made suppliers and business partners avoid doing business with him. It said that his public claims hurt the bar's image and made it harder to run the business. There were still problems. When someone tried to buy the Gas Monkey Bar name in 2017, Rawlings stepped in again. He made more claims of bad money management, which destroyed the deal. That event became another important part of the case. After that, in 2019, Rawlings fought back. The 28th of March at 2:15 p.m. He sued them for $1 million, 0 cents for copyright theft. He said that the bar kept using the Gas Monkey name and images after their deal was over. His team said that the licensing rights had ended in late 2018 and hadn't been renewed. The bar still used the name, though. More anger was caused by Rawlings' claim that his brand was being used to push sexy and inappropriate events. He said it was bad for his reputation and his ideas. About a month before, on February 25, 2019, Rawlings sent the bar a letter telling them to stop using the name. 10 days were given to them. He filed the countersuit when they didn't follow through. He asked for $1 million, 0 cents, because he lost money from licensing, and the Gas Monkey brand's value went down. There were already stories going around at the time. Some people said the bar was having money problems. Gas Monkey Live, one of its sister clubs, had closed. Some people thought Rawlings was trying to keep his name safe by separating himself from a ship that was sinking. People who like cars and people who study the law were both interested in these court cases. The fight between Rawlings and his ex-partners turned into a public mess, and while the cases were going on, Rawlings was moving on. He started a show called Monkey Trap after Fast and Loud stopped. It gave him a place to talk to his friends directly and have guests from all sorts of fields. A Hollywood stuntman named Cord Newman was one of them. He is known for setting himself on fire during a show. Behind-the-scenes stories and high-energy talks were both on the show, so Rawlings could stay in the news in another way. The cars then came. Rawlings did something brave. In September 2023, he used Bring a Trailer to sell off almost 30 cars from his own collection. There were $1,809,300, 0 cents in sales. There was a rare 1993 Toyota Supra that sold for $121, 0 cents. A 1962 Chevy Corvette that sold for $60, 0 cents. And a 1965 Ford Mustang Fastback Cote that sold for $75, 0 cents. That Supra got the most money at the sale. Rawlings said that his choice was a change in direction. He'd like to stop gathering what he called beer budget cars and start getting expensive European cars instead. At the same time, he held a sale for a Gas Monkey garage event to raise money for a good cause. The Gas Monkey Foundation got $16,500, 0 cents from it. Now that he had cash and room to store his things, Rawlings began to put together his collection again. He said that he was going to focus on Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and old European cars. He was most interested in models from the 1000, 980S, and 1970S. One of the best parts of his life was when he bought 5 Ferrari Testarossas in Ireland. At SEMA 2023, one of them caught people's attention because it had been turned into an electric car. By the beginning of 2024, Rawlings had already put more than $1 million, 0 cents, back into his new plan. He wasn't just changing the car he drove. He was also changing who he was. As his story goes on, it changes from a messy case to a collection of expensive Ferraris. There's no doubt that Richard Rawlings knows how to stay in the news, whether you like him or not.